Joining us now is David Fox, who runs a marketing firm in Kabul. He and his Afghan wife and son have been desperately trying to get out of that nation, but they are still there tonight. David, in a series of Facebook posts, you detailed your harrowing experience trying to leave to get to the airport, and then at the airport. Please tell us what happened.
So I have a friend in the U.S. State Department who was in touch with people who were inside the Kabul airport. And after many days of, waiting and trying to decide what to do without any notice from the U.S. Government about evacuation flights, we decided, on the advice of my State Department friend, to make a run for the airport. He told us that if we were able to get to the gate, he would have a friend who could identify us and actually, bring us, into the airport itself. So I kind of organized a little convoy with an African-American friend of mine who also had a very, a young son who was the same age as my little boy. And we went together in a group of 9 people to the north gate of the Kabul airport. And when we got there, there was a crowd of several hundred, potentially even, over 1,000 individuals. I mean, Afghans who were desperate to get into the airport. I'm a bigger person, but I was, carrying a, 3-year-old boy, and we were just, pushing our way into the crowd. I'm also taller, so I was, trying to, make eye contact with the U.S. Marines who were at the gate. At one point I was about 10 feet away, which, felt like, with the number of people that were there, felt like, a football stadium's length. But I was able to make contact with one of the Marines, and I was yelling, Americans here. And he just, I made eye contact with him, and he just says, get out, get back now, get back now. And the Marines are just, firing, their weapons, firing warning shots in the air, throwing flashbangs. And every time they would do a series of, volleys of warning shots, the whole crowd would surge back. And I was holding this little boy and just, trying to keep my balance, trying not to fall down. And after 30 minutes of this, me with my son and my African-American friend, Tamana, with her son, we realized that we just couldn't, continue this. If we, stayed there longer, there was the chance that we would, pass out from exhaustion.
Were you concerned at any point that the Taliban were going to fire on you?
There are 3 gates that the Marines control on the north side of the airport. And the Marines don't have any working relationship with the Taliban. So there's no one who can control the crowd on the outside. The only way that the Marines can get the crowd to back up is by firing warning shots and throwing flashbangs into the crowd. Now, the Taliban are working with the British on what's known as the Camp Sullivan Gate, which is on the eastern side of the Kabul airport, the southeastern corner of the Kabul airport. And I had my friend who was in the U.S. State Department who was guiding me. We were exchanging exact locations using WhatsApp. He knew exactly where I was. He was giving me exact locations about where I should go. And when the North Gate option did not work out for us because we aborted, we just, after we aborted that attempt, my friend Tamana's contact, who was in the U.S. Department of Defense, said, okay, go to the Baron Hotel, which is by the Camp Sullivan Gate. The Taliban have, a couple of layers of security. So they have an outer perimeter and then an inner perimeter, and then the place where, these people can actually communicate with a British soldier. So on the outer perimeter, the Taliban are checking documents. We'd get to the gate and we'd show the Taliban our U.S. passports, and they would just say, oh, well, please, by all means, come in. And then we would get in the outer gate. And then in the intermediate gate, that's when, there's 3 kinds of Taliban. There was Taliban management, so they're unarmed. There was Taliban, fighters who actually had weapons, and, they would fire warning shots, and hit people with buttstocks, poke people with the barrel of the weapons. And there was, Taliban enforcers. So the Taliban enforcers had these, big rubber bands. I think they're called motor fan belts. And, I actually got whacked with with one of these fan belts for not moving fast enough.
The U.S. military have said they can't send troops out to get folks because they don't have the resources to engage like that. So this harrowing description here, how are you going to get out of that country?
So, for me as a father, I always have to I have to weigh the risks of these different options. So to me, the airport is very dangerous. The Marines do not have control of the northern gates. And for whatever reason, the British, are not allowing Americans with, American passport holders to just come in. The issue of the mob at the airport is because there's a belief in that's spreading, in the Afghan society, that if you can get into that airport by hook or by crook or just throwing elbows and pushing, then you will get on a free flight to America. And when you get to America, you will start processing your asylum case, and then you will become a U.S. citizen. So they think it's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get to the United States, which for most Afghans is just like an implausible dream. So we are going to wait until these evacuation flights stop, and then commercial flights resume. And I just want to, if you allow me, I want to add one kind of additional piece of information about what the U.S. State Department is doing to try to, help, eligible individuals get to the airport.
Go ahead, David.
So this morning at around 9 a.m., I received an email from the U.S. Embassy Consular Services Department, and they said, we have created a document to help, American citizens and eligible SIV recipients and applicants get to the airport. And it is this document. I printed it just for you guys. Okay. This looks like a U.S. visa. Okay. So for those of you who aren't familiar, if you get a U.S. visa, an immigrant visa in your passport, this is what it looks like. But this document has no name. It's not addressed to anyone. There's no serial number, okay, at the bottom. There's no barcode. So thousands of Afghans received this. Basically, everyone who had applied for SIV, these special immigrant visas for the Afghan translators and other people, they received this email. And what do you think happened when these people received an email like this, a document like this, that has no name? Of course, they printed out 100 copies. Even the Taliban can't control, 2,000 or 3,000 people at the Camp Sullivan Gate when you have tens of thousands of Afghans who now have this kind of ridiculous, bogus document that the State Department created. I mean, I don't know how else to explain something like this, an idea like this, except for brainworms. I mean, it's absurd.
David,
what were they thinking?
As a father, I can't imagine how stressful this is to you to get your wife and your son out of that country. I can tell you that President Biden told our George Stephanopoulos that he will get every American out who wants to get out of Afghanistan, and our people will be there until that happens. So I wish you and your family the best of luck. We'll continue to check in with you, but be safe, okay?
Great. Thank you. It was nice to talk to you.
You might have noticed that we blurred that document David showed us. We did that for security reasons.